So, as a first guest, I figure who better to have on the program than somebody who would absolutely not judge our technical failures at all. Somebody who is certainly not any sort of podcasting snob. Welcome to the program without a name, Jesse Thorn.
Thank you, Brian. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm addressing the camera. I'm trying to find this video on your YouTube channel and failing.
You guys start vamping and I will send this I'm going to tweet this out. I will tweet this out.
If you tweet it, I can retweet it. How about that? How's it going, Dan Kennedy? Where are you, in upstate New York?
I am. I love that so far my contribution has just been checking my email. And let me get back to Zoom. Hang on. All right, check it out. I'm back. Yes, I am. I'm going on a little hike tomorrow.
Don't sell yourself short, Dan. You made other contributions to the show. You're here. You have that fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguisher is at the ready here in the studio. If anything goes wrong, I have the fire situation taken care of.
Ophira, I'm not going to lie to you. You seem a little braggy. I feel like your shot framing really highlights the fact that you have speaker alcoves.
Okay, no. So I live in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn, and I have some work to get done. And now that we are all not leaving our apartments, I spent the big bucks and Airbnb'd a place in Hudson, New York, to transfer myself and my husband and my 4-year-old to a place that had more than one room with pocket doors.
Was there price gouging involved? Do you mind revealing how much you paid for it?
Actually, it was like we hit it right as it started, because I said we should rent. We don't have anything. We're idiots. We're New York idiots. We're like, we don't have a car. We don't have, we live in our little place. That's all we could afford. That's all we have. So I was like, we're going to rent a car and Airbnb. I looked online. It was like, oh my God, millions of cars. So cheap. Airbnb. We're like, this place seems fine. We called the guy. We're like, yeah, we're thinking of staying for a week. Is that okay? He was so casual about it. He's like, people kept canceling on me. I'm just so happy to hear from you. And then we're like, all right, we'll think about it and call you right back. He called us 20 minutes later and he said, I have 3 people that want to take the place for the whole month or maybe longer. So because you guys came to me first, you can have it. And then as soon as we took it, he raised the price online by $300.
Holy cow.
We got a deal. And then I went to go rent a car and there were no cars. There were just no rental cars.
No. Where are you?
Right now in Hudson.
And what's your address? No.
We want to send you a gift package of your...
Yeah, thank you. Supposedly there's a cucumber shortage right now.
I have a cabin that I'm thinking about decamping to, but we have spring break issues. So all my children, at least 2 of my 3 children, my preschooler does not have at-home school, but 2 of my 3 children theoretically are going to school from my home right now.
Yeah.
It's a real mess. What I want to do is just say that school doesn't exist anymore. All we have now is Disney Plus, and we're just gonna watch, it's daddy movie time. Yeah. And we're just gonna watch Time Bandits or whatever.
Which I gotta say, it's my favorite new podcast on Max Fun, Daddy Movie Time. Probably. I also just want to say for the record, Jesse, only you will get the reference, I think, but
sounds like a challenge, Dan.
I'm bringing back Jazz Dan for this show.
Oh wow!
Downbeat Dan for this show. Steely Dan for this show.
Steely Dan.
You feel like the beret wouldn't fit underneath your headphones, or
it wouldn't? I tried it. I was a couple minutes late signing in.
You can't put the mask over your Jazzman goatee.
I can't.
Yeah, you're gonna have to swap those tortoiseshell frames for black ones.
Oh, hang on, I have some.
Of course you do. Wait a
second. You got
second.
jazz glasses?
What's so sad is just out of frame is my entire wardrobe for my webcasts.
Rent a Runway podcast version.
Should I use Statue of Liberty for this one?
Jesse, you've been seriously considering fleeing the city. I feel like this is the point in the disaster movie where the bridges all get bombed out.
Yeah. Well, for a little while, but one of my kids goes to a school with super, super small classes, and they had a mix of in school and at home until today. So last
Oh.
night, Mayor of LA put LA on lockdown. But before that, I was driving my daughter to school. So we had one kid who was going to school, and it was like, oh, there was a whole no infection protocol in effect, but at least there was one child that was not in our house. But at this point, it's pure. Do you want to come say hi? I'm going to turn on cats in a second. Do you want to come say hi and show your Mr. Potato Head?
I want to see that.
No, he said no.
No.
Emphatic no.
You're
It
like,
got
all right,
released
wanna
onto
be-
Prime Video.
Yeah, it's probably the Prime include. Maybe the cheapest thing ever.
I think you have to rent. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
That's my daughter Grace stopping by to talk cats.
Oh yeah, that's a big deal, cats.
Who's your
It's
favorite
Grace.
cat, Grace? Who's Grace's favorite cat?
Grace, who's your favorite cat from the movie Cats?
We can come back to you.
Either, either Victoria, Grisabella, or Skimbleshanks.
Victoria, Grisabella, or Skimbleshanks. Hard to say which.
Yeah.
Victoria's not in the bed.
Which one sings Memories?
Let's say Skimbleshanks.
I think it's.
That was such a day 6 response.
Ophira, what is is the kid old enough to be in school yet?
Oh yeah, and they are supposedly sending us a curriculum on Monday. It's 4, a curriculum on Monday. And other parents have sent in his class have sent us their schedule, which I think is all lies. Like literally, they said it was going to be like 9 to 9:15 Spanish lessons, 9:15 to 9:30 creative play. I'm like, sure. Let's. What are you setting timers with that? Who's doing all of this? No.
I think some people do that, Ophira. I know
Really?
someone who I believe in my heart right now is doing that with their children. And she just has a force of focus,
Yeah.
list making,
Yeah.
and leadership
Oof.
that frankly no one in our house possesses.
Well, you know, I don't feel like a good parent most of the time, but I have a lot of smoke and mirrors with teachers and things to make it seem like I'm doing pretty okay. But now this really exposes it.
Yeah, there's so many, there really are people who like are like, great, finally the chance to homeschool my kids.
Yeah, they're like, I never thought this what we were doing was good enough for my child, anyways, right?
Yeah, let's open the safe. Here's the folder I already had ready.
I saw a coworker's daughter's math curriculum, and she's probably 8 or 9, and I was just staring at it for probably about 10 minutes. All of that stuff is just completely evaporated from my brain. I don't know. I don't know how any parents are going to get through this, right? Because we've lost all but the absolutely essential information that we need to get through our lives day to day.
My daughter brought me algebra. My daughter is 8. I want to be clear. She brought me some algebra, and I was upstairs and she was doing her school downstairs. And I was like, this is very unusual that she would be doing this algebra, but it's pretty basic algebra. I think I still remember how to do this. And I was like working through it with her. And she had recently started at a new school. So I was like, maybe this is just what they're up to at this school.
Dan's already leaving all the algebra talk.
Bye, Dan.
Asynchronous. And like, after like 10 minutes of us doing it together, me thinking it was weird, she's like, you know what happened is I wasn't sure what the assignment was. So I just Googled math worksheet and printed something out.
Oh, really? That's amazing. Well, you're like, yeah, well,
Well,
close enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Are we all just
Yeah.
going to ignore whatever Dan just brought back?
Yeah, what'd you bring back? What do you got?
No, I'm sorry.
Matcha?
Sorry to be taking care of other things. I apologize for having to disappear for a moment, but I saw a fly, so I went and got my fly gun.
Oh,
This is one of those salt guns, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to take care of it when it comes back, but I don't know when it's going to come back. It's one of those things where now it knows. I've done this with it before. I usually
This specific fly.
Yeah. I was up here at the
It's
studio
an old
last
fly.
night recording some stuff, and it was buzzing around, and I got the gun out, and it knew something was up, and it retired for the rest of the night. But now it's taunting me.
I bought one of those electric. I got a lot of fly equipment
Oh.
in my house. I
You
got.
do?
Yeah, I do. I went on. Are you guys familiar with the now New York Times owned website Wirecutter that tells you what
Sure.
to buy? So I really love finding out what to buy. It's really stepped up my spatula game dramatically.
I know.
Oh, my new spatula is so great. I love my spatula. So we were getting flies in the house, because we don't have a screen door. This is Los Angeles, so we were getting
You were
flies.
killing them with a spatula previously?
Yeah, exactly. And so I bought these things that are like fluorescent lights with sticky pads behind them that you put. They're like night lights, but the light lights up a sticky pad covered in dead flies. That works really
Nice.
well at killing flies, but
Nice.
on the flip side, there was always a bunch of dead flies to look at. But I also got one of those like electrified tennis rackets.
Oh, sure.
Those
Oh,
are the
yeah,
best. They're
yeah.
so fun.
But here's the thing. I feel like when I hit one of the flies, it makes a cracking sound that's so loud that I freak out. Like I'll go "Ah!" and drop the thing, worried that I've just like sent the fly to another dimension.
Yeah, and the
I
bigger
mean-
the bug.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of this, I do want to say that the gun is always my last resort. There have been several flies up here that I just wait out. With patience. And there's one over by the books that finally just died of time, of age.
Well, time passes much more quickly for them.
It seems to.
Yeah, we have much longer lifespans than they.
Yeah. And plus with them, once they're like a week old, time seems to go faster for them.
Yeah, and when they get
They're a
caught
little
in your
older.
studio, it's like how we feel now. But they go through that all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Dan strikes me as the kind of pacifist who had reached like an understanding with the flies.
I usually,
This is your room over here. This is the fly room.
I honestly do. Maria hates it when I think I have to reestablish some kind of like ability to hunt and kill, because I'll reason with spiders and stuff like that. It's not romantic. She hates it. She'll be like, "Oh my God, there's a spider." And I'll be like, "What's up, dude? Come here. Come here. Do you want to go out to the wood pile? Do you want to go outside?" And I feel like, so I got the salt gun. I was like, I need to turn over a new leaf a little bit. Just let her see me waste a couple house flies.
I like how it's neon yellow, by the way. I just like I like the coloring of it. It's like you will find it in any dark room.
That's the idea. You want your weapon to be something that catches your eye, because you never know when these things come out, man. Like
I thought you were pulling out a musical instrument because I can't actually play this yet, but I inherited this from a friend a couple of weeks before the coronavirus really started kicking into action, and I feel like I'm going to be quite the expert by the end of all of this.
Yeah.
Or will you? I feel like, we don't know right now how long we are going to be in this situation, but I think there's a lot of people who had this optimistic moment of like, well, I'm going to learn that instrument, or I guess now given the time, I will write that book. And what happens, in a couple months, let's say we come out of it, you're going to find out, guess what? I'm not a writer.
Hopefully not that one specifically. I feel like we've already crossed that bridge, but the musical instrument, absolutely. I don't think there is a quarantine long enough that I could actually acquire some kind of music.
I just
Ophira
booked some.
Eisenberg,
I just booked some
inspiring people.
ukulele lessons for the quarantine. Nice. I have a buddy from elementary school and from my Little League baseball team who's a professional bluegrass musician. And he just got laid off from his day job because of the virus. And he posted on Facebook, anybody need music lessons?
Wow.
And I said, well, Lon Chetsky, long time no see, but let's do this. Let's make it happen. Teach me some new ukulele chords and strumming patterns.
Nice.
Impressive.
I don't know if I'm going to be like soloing by the end of the quarantine, but hopefully we'll learn a couple of diminished chords, maybe.
Does anybody else have any quarantine related goals for the next, God willing, weeks?
I hope to do more fitness than just open the emails about all the fitness classes that are online.
Are you hiking, Ophira? You went to the country.
Yeah, we just got here yesterday. So this was day one. So, this was just figuring out where we are. Day. Honestly, it was just sort of like, are there plastic bags? Are there, like, just, you know, you come to a house. It was the weirdest packing I've ever done in my entire life, because it was just, I didn't know what to take. I packed passports, not that I can fly anywhere, but I was in a weird state of mind about, like, I don't know what we're doing right now, but we're just sort of, we're putting a pause, I guess, for some space. So yeah, I will hike. I will hike. That was the point to come here. Seriously, it was just to, like, be able to go outside, because right now everyone in Prospect Park in Brooklyn is mad because even staying, if everyone stood 6 feet away from each other, there's still nowhere to move. Like, just everybody is out. So it creates the same problem.
There are more people outside now. I mean, at least in the outer boroughs. I'm in Queens, and it feels like there are more people outside on a given day than there normally. Certainly, I went on a bike ride the other day because I felt like that was a good natural way to be 6 feet away from everybody, and rode to Astoria Park. And I've never seen the park that crowded on a Wednesday.
Ophira, you and I are both public radio hosts. Will your public radio show ever reconvene? You have a live audience.
Yeah, we're doing a remote version. We're taping a remote version in 2 parts on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So see how it goes.
Can you walk us through sort of the technical specifics of, I mean, like, as far as you actually know what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, like, how are we doing it with really the tech side? Yeah, so they sent me I believe the recorder is called, I'm going to say it wrong, but it's like a Marantz, whatever they keep saying the name, sure. Marantz, and a microphone that I plug into that.
Microphone, that's right.
Yep. A stand, a really nice microphone, they said, but it doesn't plug into a laptop, PS, not like all of your fancy setups.
Yeah, so it's not that nice if it doesn't plug into a laptop.
Yeah, so I'm going to be recording on that. Externally, everyone's going to be getting a proprietary piece of software on their phone that is going to be a contestant or a special guest, NPR, a reporter audio file. And I guess we're all going to do it in a Zoom meeting, and then all the external files are going to be sent, and the poor people that are in post-production are going to have to do a lot of knitting.
Now in a situation like that, in a kind of a game show, which, you know, there are some current events. You feel, you know, what's the percentage, like 80-20, 95-5% as far as actually talking about the current situation?
Like, you know, I don't think you could avoid it. I think the games are all going to just be escapism, nothing to do with anything. Although, as we are going through them today, everything, just like I think the word disruptor will be gone by the end of this, right? Because now that everything has been disrupted, there'll be no need for that idiot word. Thank God. But, you know, we're like, no, no, the answer is putting hands in the mouth, like just everything just seemed about touch. All of our clues and everything was about touching and convening and being in one place and being able to just, everything seems so loaded.
What was the question where the answer was putting the hands in the mouth?
That really should be a new game show where you just say the answer, putting your hands in your mouth. How do you know?
Incorrect. The answer was touching the eyes. Touching the
I think you guys have
eyes.
heard this, that there is like a bunch of actual coronavirus porn that is being made.
How would we have
Is
heard
there?
that, Ophira?
I mean,
Ophira's like, certainly you guys have seen this.
Did they have it on CNN.com? Or
yeah, yes,
That
they
was like,
do.
it was like a
did
Jay
they
Leno
show it on
prompt.
the news hour at all?
You guys heard
on.
about this coronavirus porn?
You guys have waited 14 minutes to trot that out. Hang on, let me get my kids out of the room. They're in their 40s, but I still don't feel good about this.
I know it's a faux pas to sort of reference like a pop culture thing, but I keep thinking of that scene in The Naked Gun where they're just wearing body-sized condoms.
Yeah.
Totally. What are you doing, Jesse? What are you doing?
Well, for our shows, we're doing everything remotely. So we had, with Bullseye, I just recorded our first Bullseye interview where the guest was not in a studio in many years. I mean, I used to always do it on the phone, but it's been a decade since that was the case, something like that. So it was with comedian Tom Papa, who was nice enough to, he has a radio show on Sirius XM, I think. So he's got a mic at home, and we were able to jury rig it together that way. But next week I'm supposed to interview the RZA, and while the RZA has a microphone, I'm confident the RZA knows how to operate a microphone. I'm not confident at the RZA's willingness to participate in a 20-minute pre-interview technical setup period. So we'll see how they all end up. We have some Judge John Hodgman stuff in the tank, and we can do a few that's just me and John, but eventually we're going to have to get back to having litigants on, and I guess we'll just have them from their cell phones.
I do think everyone's pretty forgiving right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I hope so.
To me,
nothing else.
One of the more fascinating parts about this is just like seeing the inside of everyone's house on CNN. Just seeing where all of your favorite wonks live.
Yeah,
I mean, really, it is like, how do you live? And then you're like, is that like, I'm looking at you, Brian. I was like, this could be a nice house in your room, but when I don't know, you could be sitting on your futon that you sleep on.
Linda Holmes's dog made a big appearance on Morning Edition yesterday, I think.
Oh yeah,
that's always nice.
I do have this whiskey collection over here, and I stopped drinking about 10 months ago, and it's been like knock on wood, it's been pretty relatively easy for me. I know not everybody's that lucky, but there have been like a handful of situations where it's been difficult, one of which was going to a baseball game last year. It turns out that live baseball games are slightly more difficult to watch without a booze in your hand. It turns out, didn't realize this, that all socializing amongst adults happens at bars. Just not a thing that ever occurred to me.
You could invite the guys to get a haircut.
Not now.
Not now.
Not in New York City.
Oh yeah, I have to learn how to cut bangs. Yeah. Okay.
Brian, as a parent who lives in Los Angeles, I have to correct you. All adult socializing happens at family fun centers, during second graders' birthday parties.
Sure, but there's a lot of alcohol involved in either case.
Indoor playgrounds is where all adult socializing takes place.
As a guy who also quit drinking, I would also like to let you know that in time, that phrase, all adult socializing takes place in bars, turns into a certain type of adult always socializes in bars.
That's right.
Yeah.
It gets easy.
I was starting to feel like Andy Capp after a certain point.
Yeah, Brian, I guess my question is
Yeah.
which one of the steps is the one where your whiskey collection retains pride of place? That's the real. You're like,
I'm not in the program. I just want to make this clear because
I haven't been drinking for 10 months.
Yeah.
But I do still occasionally get a rare bottle.
I got some real good shit over there, Jesse.
I did that though for the first year. For the first year, my freezer could have like tranquilized an elephant. Like there was just this weird. I remember Maria came over to my apartment. She was like, "I thought you quit everything." I'm like, "Yeah, totally." She's like, "Your freezer is a situation." I was like, "Yeah, no, that's just in case. You know, like if people come over." She's like, "Cool. If people come over, they might want to have 3 grams of mushrooms and 5 bottles of gin." Okay.
I had to pursue a similar freezer cleaning policy because recently my wife learned that she is allergic to wheat. She has always had extraordinarily sensitive skin and she could never figure out why until she gave up wheat. And she was like, oh, my hands are no longer red and puffy all the time.
Wow.
And so I am fine without bread. I mean, only occasionally having bread, which is the top thing you have to give up.
Right.
But I had not long, and I mean like 2 days before my wife figured this out, I had gone to this supermarket called the Super King here in Northeast Los Angeles, which is, yeah, the Super King is a great independent supermarket where the main thing that happens is you get elbowed by like an elderly Georgian woman. Like it is known for having just an extraordinary wall, like 10 linear feet of refrigerator wall space dedicated to yogurts of the world. Because you can't have an Azerbaijani can't bear to have an Armenian yogurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the carbon footprint of this grocery store fits right in with the California lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I go to this is not my regular grocery store. It's not that far from my house. And when I find myself there buying groceries, I will stop in the dumpling section in the freezer and I will buy every kind of pelmeni and every Central and Eastern European meat dumpling that's available. Every Russian dumpling, every pierogi, and Gorbachev, and so on and so forth. And I had a freezer full of dumplings, and my wife said, I can't eat wheat anymore. I'm going to give up wheat. And I thought I was chill about it until I remembered that I had just bought that like $100 worth of delicious dumplings. And I was like, I can't eat these by myself. I'll die. Then there's no situation where I'm like cooking dinner for myself and I'm like, I'll make myself a bag of Georgian dumplings.
That actually sounds like exactly when I picture a night in Jesse Thorn's life.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do dinner, breakfast, but
But I literally
want that now.
One of my coworkers.
I know, it sounds amazing.
This is the hardest part of quarantine.
What do they taste like?
One of my coworkers, Kevin, lives in a similar in a neighboring neighborhood in Los Angeles. Being neighbors with someone is when they live within 5 miles of you. And I just like filled a freezer bag with every dumpling, all the pasta sauce, all the all the frozen puff pastry, all these things that were in my freezer. I just meatballs. I had meatballs from the Italian deli.
Those have wheat? Wait.
Yeah, because what do you think makes them? Yeah,
Right.
there's breadcrumbs in meatballs.
It's not just a ball of meat.
And I just brought him exactly. I just brought him like a full grocery bag full of delicious treats and just said, just take them out of my sight. But now there's frozen food shortages, and don't I feel like the fool?
Well,
I could have sold them to him for $40 a pelmeni.
There's not frozen food shortages. There's frozen food just getting it there. We've got frozen food. If you want frozen cauliflower, you're going to be able to get it. That's the least enjoyable frozen food. Cauliflower.
I like to eat it like a popsicle.
Jesse, shouldn't you kind of feel like a hero?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm going to reframe it a little bit, just a little. I think you should feel like a hero for going to a neighbor's house with a giant sack of frozen food.
Yeah.
And just saying, get this out of my sight.
And while
especially in hindsight.
And while Kevin isn't technically speaking in an at-risk population, he does have prematurely gray hair.
Well, there you go.
Because he worries. That's how that works, right?
Yeah, I think that's certainly how it works in cartoons, which is how I got my understanding of the world.
I want to point out earlier, so when we started this, Jesse was, noting everybody's framing, which like fair enough. I think like if you put any thought into this, you probably maybe like cleaned up the floor behind you. Jesse has a signed Bill Withers LP right next to his head.
Oh,
wow.
My son is going to say goodnight. I'm just warning you.
Is it Diggable Planets?
There's Diggable Planets, The Roots, and George Clinton.
Nice. Get a fire.
Good night, Mommy.
What's that?
Good night, Gummy.
Is that famous cartoonist Jonathan Bayliss?
Oh, there's Heater. Hey, what's up?
Where can people find your
Dan
work?
Kennedy. I know that guy.
And that's Jesse Thorn.
Oh, Jesse Thorn.
All of your favorites.
What's going on?
This is Lucas. Good night.
Lucas.
Have a good night. Yeah, good night and goodbye.
Sweet.
Can you plug your? Do you know what your husband's website is?
Yep.
Yeah, his website is sobuttons.com.
SO. Buttons.
But I'm sorry, right? SO Buttons.
Yes. Jonathan is a terrific autobiographical cartoonist.
And Lucas's website is no. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
So Dan, what are you doing to pass the time?
Well, I am here in the studio, which is pretty much a disaster of stuff. And
looks cool.
It's a
nice
handsome looking
beams.
studio, yeah.
Yes. And I'm just recording as much stuff as I can for a few different things. And then I walk home at night and it's all like what I have on my list is like record stuff and then tomorrow go for a hike. And then even that feels too much. Like I guarantee you I'll walk home after this and I'll be like, oh man, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then I'll just watch Fleabag over and over and I'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. All right, something makes sense. And that's sort of what I do.
Dan,
right
is your comfort food, because this is something that I have never been able to relate to.
Is it Georgian yogurt?
No.
It's actually
Azerbaijani only. Thank you.
It's a sack of frozen items. That's my comfort food.
Is your comfort food television something that is as deeply upsetting as Fleabag is? Because I definitely know people, there's a lot of people whose comfort food is television shows about a woman being murdered in her home.
Interesting.
And there's some people who just love, like, the more intensely dramatic something is, the more comfortable it makes them.
Well, it just depends. Like, I'm kind of pitching myself as a really brave viewer right now who's super, unapologetic about his intensity, man. But, usually, I mean, name a season 2 Andy Griffith Show episode. Like usually,
I wish I could right now. How impressed would you be?
I mean, the Bookie Barber, Barney's Replacement, all the classics. But I'll usually sort of like, wind down with that. And then some like Super Mario Odyssey. And then, then I'll get into Fleabag.
I literally watched the Kevin McHale episode of Cheers last night. That's where my emotions are at. That's
Yeah.
the most boldly emotional thing I can watch is a very special episode of Cheers.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think if I tried
Those
to
are
watch
heavy.
even if Teresa, my wife, and I watched Planet Earth tonight, we would fall apart at the
Yeah.
prospect. of
Oh,
that.
there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
way. There's no way.
Yeah, none of that.
We're very thankful that we hadn't been able to make it through the last season of The Good Place.
Mhm.
So we have that. But yeah, I mean, I could just endlessly watch the Great British Bake Off, but I've watched them all.
Oh, that's
That's-
massive. Until you realize that you don't have a dessert in the house. That happened to us. That happened to us like a month ago. We were just on a bender. We're like, another one, another one.
Yeah.
Why did Paul Hollywood not like that one cake? That was a good cake. Well, she's
The
hard on herself
handshake. The handshake.
the whole night. And then I was like, oh, and then we were like, we don't have one dessert in this house.
It's the same problem watching Planet Earth when you're locked in home. Is
Oh,
I mean, I feel like we should just be watching like maybe Orange is the New Black, something taking
Yeah.
place on a
Oh,
spaceship,
yeah.
so
some
buried
nice
alive.
confinement thing.
Happy
Yeah.
on.
I one time was in a motel with my friend Ben. We were on a fishing trip, and we were both laying.
This is
in
the
our
most
single-
Andy Griffith story. Dan.
We were both laying in our single.
We was a whistling.
our
We
single
was a whittling.
we were laying in our single motel beds, and we were watching Lockup. And there's like a little sink outside of the bathroom, and we realized we're two dudes in a small motel room watching a show about prisoners. And it was very,
You had a meta experience.
very meta.
Was there
Very
cuddling
meta.
involved?
No.
No.
I keep getting I had saved a real estate search on Zillow for homes, within the range of triangulated distances from my children's schools,
Right.
and I keep getting these new listings coming up. And every time I get one of these new listings, I like look at it and I think, you poor fools. You poor fools. Like, I want to know, like, who's like, okay, and publish? Like, what? There's
You know
no-
what? I know. And although there's still going to be someone out there that's like, this is the time to buy, right?
Well,
There's
I'll tell you
still-
what. I'll tell you what I want to buy. I subscribe to the Twitter feed for this website called Bring a Trailer. Are any of you familiar with Bring a Trailer?
Oh man.
Literally. Well,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This side of the Zoom.
What do you mean,
Yes.
yes? What do
Yes.
you mean, yes?
A
What do
trailer,
you mean?
Like, put it this way, my old school beats for Bring a Trailer was stealitback.com, which used to be amazing. Remember stealitback.com?
No.
That was all the stuff the cops get, and then they just put it up on this website for sale. They're like, what do you
Bring-
want? 15 riot helmets and a couple of bongs?
Yeah. These property auctions. My bringatrailer.com it used to be a blog, and now it's an auction platform for classic cars, but with a special focus on stupid and weird cars. Like, not like, we're not talking Concours d'Elegance type cars. We're talking like Subaru Brats, the micro compact Subaru pickup truck that was also a car.
And had two jump seats with handles like this. that
Yeah,
you
like
hang
you were
onto.
like, hold on, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You're in the back of a truck. They have a Twitter feed that posts when they have a new car up on auction. And I've been looking at like today somebody posted some like a 70s Honda mini dirt bike. And like, I have never had an interest in riding a motorcycle. It terrifies me. The prospect horrifies me. But if you show me a little tiny Honda dirt bike from 1972, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Like a
$5,000
CT70,
right here, right now.
a CT70 or a Z50 Honda from the 70s. I lament every day that I don't have places to park like just a gaggle of them.
I hate to lean into a stereotype, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm picturing this scenario, this quarantine scenario where Jesse has to flee Los Angeles on a motorcycle, having never ridden one before.
And
That'd be
also
cool.
the motorcycle, to be clear, is 2.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A 400-year-old
Just
motorcycle
riding
with
out,
square wheels.
dragging my family in a wagon behind me, like a Red Rider wagon.
Rambo,
A barrel.
like First Blood would have been such a different movie if that was a 50cc Honda from the 70s.
But I had a coworker, a salesman that we worked with, and his entire, like, he made a lot of money and did not live in New York or Los Angeles, so was able to really live any upper middle class lifestyle he wanted. And his chosen upper middle class lifestyle was to buy cars on eBay, have 3 cars at any given time, and then resell the cars. He would sell a car and buy a car every 4 or 5 months. So he was constantly rotating his pool of 12-year-old cars.
Wow.
And he was buying like $8,200 cars that he would sell for $9,100. You know what I mean? And
That's a profit thing.
Car
Yeah.
flippers.
and he would be like, oh yeah, you're thinking about getting a Jaguar, but you don't want to spend more than 10 grand. Well, here's some advice for you. You know what I mean? Like, here's the great $6,000 Jaguars you should buy. And like that lifestyle, there is a not insignificant piece of my heart. As a total non-gearhead,
Oh, yeah.
couldn't fix anything, cannot even drive a manual transmission vehicle. Learned to drive when I was 20. There is still a part of me that wants to have a menagerie of $7,000 cars instead of one $20,000 car.
It's basically me with pinball machines.
Oh yeah.
Really? Yeah.
I'd love to have pinball machines. I hate pinball. Do not like pinball.
Do you have a fantasy? Do you have a fantasy of a life where you give up the whole podcasting game and just sell things on eBay for a living?
I already do that.
Sure.
I didn't have to
once you can completely supplement your income doing that, you feel like that's just the end of max fun.
You make podcasting sound like everyone's plan A.
Oh, absolutely. We're all just sure. Ophira growing up as a little girl and fantasize about one day doing a Skype call on YouTube.
Watching HR Puffin stuff or whatever you Gen Xers watched. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're a boomer.
Yeah. Puffin stuff. I think I was too old for Puffin stuff.
Oh wow.
But I don't know, because I feel like all the Canadian American things are always mixed up for me.
Did you watch The Littlest Hobo? That's a Canadian thing.
Oh,
The Littlest Hobo.
I thought you were making a Charlie Chaplin joke, and I thought that was really inappropriate.
Yeah.
No.
Did you watch The Gold Rush or the Great Dictator growing up?
No. Ophira, that's real, right? The Littlest Hobo. It's about a dog that travels from town to town. Like a guy
That's
from
right.
Kung Fu.
Yes. Yeah. And there was another one called The Beachcombers that was very popular about like a fishing family.
Oh, I'll check
out
that
on the Maritimes. Yeah.
The Littlest Hobo was like Canadian Wishbone. Is that fair to say?
It was like Canadian Benji, but a television. But it was like Benji crossed with Kung Fu. That's my understanding.
Or like a little bit of like Quantum Leap, where he would have an adventure.
It's very fuzzy. But I do, when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that name, absolutely. But no, I grew up on Disney like every other kid. But it was like Disney, Shaggy DA Disney. You know?
Oh yeah.
Old Yeller Disney.
I hated that.
I know, it was terrible.
It was so sad. I hated Old Yeller. I couldn't stand it. And Herbie Lovebug was decent.
Yeah, right.
All the Sid and Marty Krofft stuff was solid.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch? There was this movie that I never rented from the Blockbuster when the Blockbuster opened in my house. But it was one of those like 70s live action Disney movies, like in the period after The Parent Trap, when they were making pretty good movies, but before the revival of your Little Mermaids and stuff like that, in the real shit bottom of the Disney company. Movie, I think it was called Condor Man.
Oh, I totally know that title.
and it was like a suit. It had a middle-aged man
Yes.
in a flying suit with big green wings, I think, on the cover of it. And it was that kind of white Disney box of of like early 80s Disney VHS
It's
release.
like big puffy box.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was like Swiss, to be sitting next to Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah, I feel like and there was like 5 copies of it and they were always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When I think about movies that I only recognize from the I remember from the box art growing up,
Amazing.
Which is just this is such an old person experience, but Ghoulies. Is anyone familiar with Ghoulies?
My daughter is obsessed with Ghoulies, which she calls Goalies.
The great soccer movie. Yeah.
Yeah, my 8-year-old has a very vivid mind and is of unusual interests. And she watched the movie Gremlins. She got obsessed with watching the movie Gremlins. And I was like, I'm not sure that is appropriate for an 8-year-old. But she got so obsessed with it, and she finally agreed to watch it with me during the daytime when we could cover her eyes or whatever. And we watched Gremlins, and then she got obsessed with Gremlins 2. So we finally agreed that she could watch Gremlins 2, and we watched Gremlins 2. And honestly, both Gremlins and Gremlins 2 are really good movies. And really
Gremlins
fun.
2 is a little more kid appropriate, maybe. At least it's a little lighter.
Gremlins 2 they're very different films.
Yeah.
Gremlins 2 is one of those movies that like a guy who thinks the greatest movie ever made is Back to the Future, will tell you is the second greatest movie ever made. No offense to that guy. He's a nice kind of guy, but he's like a VHS era cineast who never got around to actually becoming a cineast. You know what I mean? Like never watched any actually good movies. Those movies are good, don't get me wrong. But yeah, like Gremlins 1 is sort of like a Spielberg-y kind of thing. If Spielberg made a children's horror comedy. It's very Christmassy, but it has a lot of those kind of like sweet kid moments.
It was a Spielberg production. No?
Yeah, he was involved.
Okay,
yeah.
he was involved.
Gremlins 2 is just pure Joe Dante being insane and being like, how much crazy shit can I put in one movie?
I as one does, as a college student at UC Santa Cruz, I found out that my girlfriend at the time had a DVD copy of Gremlins 2, which I hadn't seen in a number of years, and we proceeded to get very high and watch the director's commentary of Gremlins 2, which is one of the all-time, it's up there with UHF for all-time great director's commentaries. And the first line of the director's commentary is, "Welcome to the most unnecessary sequel of all time." It's the Gremlins. The antagonist is very clearly based on Donald Trump. I think his name is Clamp. Is that right? And they get trapped in a futuristic building with the Gremlins.
Yeah,
You
and it is
two
nutty.
Are both slugs, Jesse and Brian?
Brian and I were friends in college. Brian is, I think you were a year ahead of me, right, Brian?
We were the same year. Same year. And
Wow.
just a little feather in my cap. I believe that I was the only person other than Jesse to host The Sound of Young America, because there was a pledge drive episode where
serious
Jordan and Jesse were standing in their tidy whities at the base of the UC Santa Cruz campus.
Oh,
My goodness.
Yeah, that's true. Brian was not only in my co-host Jordan Morris of Jordan Jesse Go. Not only did Brian do a ska show on our college radio station with Jordan.
Oh boy.
We've got more to talk about on that.
Yeah, we've got
coming up.
ammunition.
Yeah.
Brian was also my freshman year, maybe my freshman and sophomore year, was in my college improv group.
Wow.
A little history on that. I don't know if Jesse wants to admit this, but so the name of the troupe, hello, Lucas, the name of the troupe was the Humor Force 5.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesse was very adamant that we call the improv troupe something else. I think if I remember correctly, I believe Jesse's friend actually mocked up a mascot for the improv troupe. Jesse, what was the name that you were very, very insistent that we call the group?
Well, as excited as I was about the name of our college improv group being a reference to the movie Pulp Fiction, yes, I definitely was in a group, a group that outvoted the other group, but was ultimately denied by the founders of the improv group, who wanted to call it Huge Robot Cock. And we did have a great picture
What's
of
problematic about that?
of a robotic chicken that had been drawn for the purposes of the group. I don't stand behind that, but I also don't stand behind Humor Force 5. Although that improv group, I think, is still last time I was at Santa Cruz, it still existed, which shocked me. But we were there the first year.
Wow.
We were, I'm sure we were very bad, very, very bad. But you know, what can you do?
I think the concern was just, you know, how the residents of Porter College at UC Santa Cruz would take to a dick joke.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fair criticism in
It was
hindsight.
a fair criticism. It was very reasonable. The criticism of Brian's radio show was that it was ska music.
Yeah, that would be where I would start.
This
Yeah,
was
the
not,
criticism and literally the only fact about it. So
this was a solid, what would you say, Brian? 4 or 5 years after the peak of ska music's third revival in the United States?
probably about
Third
7.
wave?
Yeah, I think 7.
Yes.
We were waiting for the fourth wave, which, you know, still eagerly.
That's the name of your blog, right, Brian? Waiting for the fourth wave.
So yeah, but Jesse,
Based on
I
an
just
Alvin
have to-
Toffler book.
I have to speak up in terms of, I can't just sort of sit here quietly while the OC in my blood, the rainbow wearing OC guy listens to basically a sort of peripheral hazing of No Doubt.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Well, I don't like No
mean-
Doubt, but I do, you know what? I think ska music is fun. I think its revivals have been appropriate, and I have no beef with, I can sincerely say that I have no beef with ska music. Just as I have no beef with, you know, maybe the embarrassing equivalent for me would be like the soft spot I hold in my heart for the rap group Arrested Development.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Also a personal favorite. That was, I have a very distinct memory of it being in a junior high school and watching the I don't know if they still do this, but MTV used to do the countdown of videos. I'm sure this is something Dan remembers very fondly as well. And I remember
PRL Live, are we talking about?
no, you millennial, you. No,
What are we talking?
on New Year's Eve, MTV would play,
Right,
I think, like the top
right.
100 videos of
Right,
the year.
right.
And I remember
The same 100 videos they played all year anyway.
Yeah, but it was in order. It was in order of, I guess,
Right.
the goodness, or I don't know how they ranked it, but
Oh, God damn it. The safety's on. Oh, can we cuss? Sorry.
yeah, it's fine. We just got demonetized. But I remember sitting up late with my sister, and we were both like rooting for our favorites for the number one video. Mine was, I think, probably Tennessee by Arrested Development at the time, and hers was Losing My Religion by REM. And I just,
Oh yeah.
guess who won that battle?
Wow.
Yeah.
I also really love the Spin Doctors, so that was like my top rock band in middle school.
I feel like Dan Kennedy must have a Spin Doctor story, right? That seems right in your wheelhouse.
I remember them. I don't
There's that classic Kennedy wit.
I don't really know anything. Here's all I know about the Spin Doctors is I remember them. I wasn't a big fan of that song for whatever reason, because it had all that like sort of
Scatting.
kind of scatting, but kind
Wait,
of
that song,
version.
they had 3 hit songs on that
Yeah,
album. Dan.
I know, but
think-
somehow when
Talking
I said
about
that
two
song,
princes.
Yeah.
everybody
We all
knew.
knew. Yeah.
Jimmy
Talking
Olsen's
about-
Blues.
Yep, Jimmy Olsen's Blues. What was the other one,
Mhm.
Brian?
Well,
They had 3, didn't they?
What time is it? Maybe was
Yeah,
that a big
what
one?
time is it?
Which,
Yeah.
by the way, our mutual friend Dave Shumka made a "What time is it?" joke, and not a lot of Spin Doctors fans left on Twitter.
But there's like a biblical sort of story about the singer. Like, didn't he lose his voice after
Yeah.
the run?
Yeah, you can hear that. You can hear an interview with him on my podcast RIYL, where we discuss
Oh, yeah.
exactly
That's
that.
probably where I heard it. That's probably where I heard it.
Chris Barron.
Yeah. Wait a
I'm
minute.
pretty-
He didn't have a voice, but he was on your podcast.
He came back. He's singing
Oh, it came
again. It was
back.
yeah.
It
He had
came
he had Tommy
He
John
got
surgery.
better.
I do a lot of advocacy for the Huey Lewis album Sports on the Judge John Hodgman podcast. I will often just take the opportunity when I see the opportunity, I will take the opportunity to say, Alexa, play Huey Lewis and the News Sports on
That's
the show.
happening everywhere now. Whoever's listening to this.
Yeah, so that people who are listening on a speaker, their Alexa will put on the Huey Lewis and the News album Sports. So I'm not above it. I just want to be clear, I'm not above any of these
And
things.
he lost his hearing, is that right?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's recently lost his
yeah.
hearing. Yeah, my buddy Dave Holmes went out to Montana to report a piece for Esquire
Yeah.
about him. Beautiful piece that I recommend very highly. He is Dave is, but also Huey Lewis is the loveliest guy. He was I had him on Bullseye. He was he moved to Europe by stowing away on an airplane, which was a thing you could do at the time. And so he stowed away on a passenger airplane, snuck onto an airplane. You would go into the terminal, find a lost ticket or like have an old ticket and just flash it and walk onto the airplane, and then like hide in the bathroom until the plane was in the air, and then come out and sit down in a seat that no one was sitting in.
Wow.
Anyway, he told me all about it, and
Wow.
he was like a significant, not a major, but a significant musician in pub rock in the UK in the 70s, and then moved back to the Bay Area kind of thinking that his music career was over, and thinking or his big time music career was over, and was just like, I'm just going to start an R&B band with my friends from Marin.
Which, by the way, just side note, Clover, his backing band was the backing band on the first Elvis Costello and the Attractions album.
There you go. Exactly. That's his pub rock band. He was known. He had not been a singer at all, and was just a harmonica player. He's a very good harmonica player. And then Huey Lewis and the News happened out of that, just because I guess somebody figured out how handsome he was and how he was capable of writing these nice R&B dad rock songs.
Huge dick too, just giant penis.
Yeah, and his monster
Yeah.
schlong.
That's what you were telling me the other day.
And he came in and did Bullseye and talked to me about all this stuff maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Just the loveliest guy. And you're like, oh right, like sometimes people become this thing because they just figured it out.
Right.
It's not because they're an insane psycho. Like some people, sometimes Ellen DeGeneres becomes Ellen DeGeneres by being a psychopath. But like Huey Lewis became Huey Lewis by just like, he went through a bunch of stuff. He was like, I'm going to do something I really like. I'm going to have a party band. And people were like, yeah, we like party bands. We could use one of those. And like, he never turned into a monster, or he's just a nice guy with a fun band,
Speaking of psychos, do you get a sense of how he felt about American Psycho and playing so prominently in that film?
I did not ask him about American Psycho. I feel like I wanted to ask him about things that would make him feel nice. But did you guys see today, Kevin Porter from the podcast Good Christian Fun, great LA comedy guy, formerly of the Gilmore Guys. Kevin Porter posted a thread that he would donate $2. He said this was the time for us to be kind to each other.
Oh.
Just like Ellen DeGeneres tells us to.
Sure.
And since Ellen DeGeneres is famous in Hollywood primarily for being the least kind human being on earth, he would donate $2 to the food bank for every real story that people told him about Ellen DeGeneres being a monster. and there's just an incredible thread of Ellen DeGeneres being a monster stories. He is really getting soaked $2 at a time.
Just-
My.
Just once, though, I would like a Huey Lewis story not to be a referendum on Ellen. You know?
I should note, since we are live streaming to YouTube right now, we do have a chat open to questions right now. Alan Brooks has a question for Jesse. He
Yeah.
wants to know, can you do different shapes of beard over the next few weeks? Now, this is something I've been thinking about myself, because this is not nearly as luxurious as yours is, but like I'm just seeing what I can do. I'm seeing if the Semitic genes can kind of kick in at some point between now and the end of the quarantine.
Yeah, you're one of the palest Semites I know. You're real light-haired. You were practically blonde when we were in college. Your hair's a little darker these days.
So different beard shapes.
Yeah, I think I trimmed it all off shortly before the quarantine. I might just let it go forever, but I'm trying to maintain dignity. My real problem is
Yeah.
I'm about a week past the point where I should have got a haircut. And
Yeah.
I think I'm going to start live streaming backyard haircuts with my wife. Just running a razor over it.
How complicated is cutting your hair, Jesse? And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Well, here's the thing. So I do have a haircut. So when I go to the barbershop, they do give me an actual haircut. They don't just put a guard on it and run it all over. But that is more like, my wife is not going to be able to give me a taper or a fade. So I think it will all be of uniform length when my wife cuts it.
I decided that I was going to try to cut my bangs about 6 months ago. I was just in between. I wasn't coming home, and so I was like, I'm going to do it. I mean, I've never done it because it's just not my forte. Watched a bunch of YouTube videos. There's a bazillion YouTube videos on how to cut your hair, and it was like, all right. And I had a pair of scissors, and I was watching the video and looking in the mirror, and I was like, all right, I'm ready. And so I did this with my bangs and went in for the first cut and just sliced right into my finger. And I was like, okay, I'm out.
You just went in there with a kitchen knife, just like
immediately screwed it up. And I was like, I can't do this.
Do you get a sense now that like it might be a while before you can get another haircut, that you might try it again?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think especially Ophira, you're probably getting a salon cut.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to. It might be that I come out of this with a new career.
Is there anything, Ophira, that you wish you had done, like a haircut or something else, before all of this went down? When you started hearing the stories initially, and you were like, yeah, this is just gonna be like the swine flu all over again, or this is gonna blow over in a week or two. Is there anything that like you put off that you wish you had done out when we were still free?
I'm trying to think. I mean, like, I feel like I do. Right. I mean, yeah, a little bit of. I mean, the grooming thing. All I will say is that I for whatever it's worth, I was just starting to be like, I have a routine for going to the gym for the first time in my life.
You were just getting your life together before.
I was just starting to be like, no, I've actually been doing this for a little while. And yeah, I never, ever thought. And then I stopped going to the gym earlier before they closed them, because I was like, the ultimate irony is if I get sick from going to the gym, that would just be so mean.
Dan, at what point was it clear to you that this was not going to be the swine flu all over again?
I just, I don't know, when everyone started behaving the way I behave most of the year, I knew something was really weird. When everyone had the same level of fear and anxiety. What's the drug? Is it Ritalin that works by sort of speeding up the inside of you or speeding up the outside world or something, so they sync and you feel calm?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the kind of ADHD drugs.
Yeah. I think that's how this whole thing has sort of affected me. Like in a weird way, I feel this guilt because I just feel like, all right, yeah, now everybody knows what it's like. Like this weird feeling of, you hear normal people going, God, what's my next gig? Oh man, I've been in the house for like 2 weeks. All these things that I don't know. I kind of been dealing with since around 2004. It's very calming. But obviously it's scary, but I don't know. I can't even process it. We were taking a walk tonight, and Maria asked me if like what was new. Had I watched anything on Twitter and seen anything? And I just was like, here's the story. Everything's screwed. It needs to get better. No one knows how it's going to get better or when. And that's it. That's all I can process. Because at a certain point, it's like your brain just, sort of shuts down,
I keep reading. I have this. I was really excited about the baseball season, and I bought this baseball preview book called Baseball Prospectus.
Sure.
That's like 400 pages of of every player in the major leagues and what their outlook is, and so on and so forth. And I've been reading it in the bathroom when I use the bathroom. And not to be too blue for you, Brian, I know you're concerned about monetization.
I'm sorry, you were just pointing out the fact that you don't depart to your study, which is also the bathroom. Was that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I keep reading it and being like, oh, that's a really interesting bit of information about Jose Ramirez or whatever. And then I remember that baseball season is basically canceled now.
Yeah.
And that keeps catching me. Like it keeps catching me unawares that like it's like the one thing in the entire world that I could count on, which was every spring baseball happens. And it's boring, but it's my friend, is gonzo.
What makes it extra crazy is this was far and away the most batshit offseason in probably baseball history, or certainly ones that I'm aware of. I mean, I was very much, as a fan of the Oakland Athletics of Oakland, watching Mike Fiers, the whistleblower, play in Houston for the first time, I think would have been a pretty amazing thing to watch. And all of that is kind of gone.
Yeah, it's funny how it has reminded me both of, like baseball was caught up in this scandal. The Houston Astros, who have been one of the great teams of the last few years, were caught cheating. And it was the biggest cheating scandal in pro sports in my memory. And except for maybe
everything with the New England Patriots.
Yeah, more meaningful than the New England Patriots one, but maybe not bigger. Just
it was the big. I mean, it was that Pete Rose and like the Black Sox.
Yes, exactly. And it completely has disappeared in the face of, oh right, we all could get a horrible disease and die, and also the baseball season's canceled. And it is such a reminder to me both of the relative meaninglessness of professional sports, that there is no, it does not actually matter that the Astros cheated. Like people who are trying to find grounds for lawsuits are really struggling. Like you got to rope in a gambling website, to find actual harm from it. But on the other hand, it is the fact that it is gone is such a vivid reminder of how actually important it is to me emotionally.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Roger Angel, George Will, of just like baseball as the passage of time. Like when you and Jesse, both you and I are like getting close to this point where it's just like, yeah, I guess I can't be a professional baseball player. I guess I'm officially too old for that. Like
my
that
knuckleball's really starting to dance, so I think I still got a shot.
I have a question in the chat for Dan. Somebody wants to know how storytelling will work for a while in this work from home world. Do we start virtual moths?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the answer. I know the Moth just canceled all their live shows, obviously, through May. So I don't know how that's going to roll out. It'll be pretty interesting for me. It's rolling out just like this. I mean, I also have rediscovered the joy of phone calls. The thing we text on and make movies with also has the audio capacity to call people. So I've been doing that.
Okay,
which is
Boomer.
insane.
Yeah, no, I've gotten to a point where anytime somebody calls me on the phone, I start to panic. I mean, fortunately, it's Chinese spam about like 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Ophira, question for you. Somebody wants to know, is there a way we could make Ask Me Another happen online?
Yes, it's happening. There will
Boom.
be a new episode. The goal is the new episode will be released next Friday. That's the goal. We'll find out. Will the goal be reached? Wow, talk about the lowest stakes goal right now.
Are you concerned at this point that obviously you've got a lot of very good radio people on your side. Are you concerned that I don't know, that it just is going to be a hot mess?
No, I just feel like, whatever. We all don't know what we're doing. I'm sure it'll be totally fine. It's just having a good time, making an audio product, that's the goal there. But it's just different from what everybody on the team is used to doing. So I think that there's just that learning curve there of everyone being like, so then what, how's this going to sound and what's in the A block? There's a lot of the ways that radio is made for these people for a long, long time that we are changing for now, which I don't know. I just feel like, again, maybe like you, Dan, it's just like I've done so many different things in so many weird different ways and tried so hard cobbling together a career that when someone's like, you have to change what you do, I'm like, I'm constantly being asked that.
Right.
Yeah, I think
like whatever I offer is not what you want. Okay, so I'm changing again. No problem.
on Jordan Jesse Go, we were deciding what to do the other day, and we have a couple of episodes in the can. One that was going to be our pledge drive episode, but we had to postpone our pledge drive, and one that we had recorded just before because my kid's spring break is coming up, and I was going to be out of town.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out what to do. And Jordan was like, well, we could just wait and use the ones that are in the can and figure it out later. And honestly, I pushed really hard for us to keep recording every Sunday. And the reason that I pushed really hard was not because I felt like people deserved to know where we were at or people needed our timely information about the coronavirus that they were going to get from our podcast about if we could see what Wario's dick looked like, what would it look like? Would it be green? But that's not a real thing we've discussed on the show. It's just something that we will at some point discuss. And honestly, the reason I wanted to do it was I was just like, I don't know if I can make it week to week without laughing with my friend. That is all I have left. I mean, I guess my wife and children, but
no, that's huge though. That's huge. I totally, nice. I think that's huge. Yeah.
I mean, all I'm saying, Ophira, is if I had a standing date with Jonathan Colton, or a standing date with, if I was Jonathan Colton, I had a standing date with Ophira Eisenberg, I wouldn't miss it for the world,
Thank you. I get it. It's just also just this stuff, fortunately, is translatable to a situation like now. So you got to do it. There's a lot of things that are not translatable to everyone staying inside their house.
I do, because I got to a point where I'm just editing. It's a long story, but I will not tell here. But I'm actually editing my show myself, and I got to a point where I was just banking a lot of episodes. It just kind of made sense for me. you know, because basically when I'm not at work and I'm riding the train home or I'm at home, I'm sitting there on my computer editing everything together. So I would, you know, go on a trip and interview a bunch of people. So I have conservatively probably about 4 or 5 months of podcast banked. And I usually make a point to not go too much into current events for that exact reason. I mean, there's like so many times when it was just like, you know, I talked to Dan Klaus, for example, and we were talking about this is one, you know, not going to get super political, but this is one of those like millions of Trump things that you've like completely forgotten about because so much crazy stuff has happened in the world. When he drew on the map with a Sharpie. We were talking about when he drew with the map on Sharpie, and it took a while for it to come out. And I feel like that reference was just completely lost to the world. Now it's just the world is a completely different place, and it almost feels, I feel like we get into pretty deep and sometimes, you know, profound or interesting conversations, and a lot of it kind of feels trivial. I mean, this is, as somebody whose job it is to write about the news, I would say probably, you know, about 75 to 80% of the stories that I've written in the past 2 weeks have been about the coronavirus. And part of it is because obviously this is information that we want to get out there, but part of it is just because everything else just feels a little bit silly. It feels silly to just write about some dumb little app when this crazy thing is happening out there.
I don't know, Brian. Are you telling me that my interview with Will Forte that was primarily about MacGruber isn't what America needs right now?
I would listen. I would listen to that.
Exactly what
would
America needs.
need that so badly right now, Jesse.
Yeah. If only Will Forte was in some sort of post-apocalyptic program about the end of the world that is somehow relevant to current event. If only.
But, you know, we do have an Ask Me Another that went out today. That was one that we recorded in late February, and it was slated to go out, and that's the content that was going out. But I did some recording around it, just telling people like, hey, this is a new episode, but it was recorded back then. So like, don't think we're just totally tone deaf to the entire thing.
Yeah, we had to do that.
Seems so weird.
We had to do that with the Judge John Hodgman that we recorded now maybe 4 or 5 months ago over the summer in Maine. And like, it's all about Joel Mann, the guy who's the engineer at the community radio station where John records his end of the show when he's summering in Maine, and Joel Mann's local jazz trio that play on the show, and all of these things that are so adorable and provincial. All these Maine things. There's nothing else in Maine but that. Well, there's like hard-bitten lobster folk as well. But like all of that stuff, we were just like, just so you know, here's a little escape for you through a time machine to 4 months ago when we recorded this, because we were like, I don't know. But people like that. And I know I like that. Like, I was listening to an episode of the great comedy podcast, The Doughboys, with Paul F. Tompkins, that came out right before the stuff happened. And I was like, I was so grateful to be listening to just pure bullshit, they were having an extended conversation about which of the McDonald Land characters David Bowie would have been aware of when he was alive, and to what extent, and like ranking. Well, you would definitely know who Ronald McDonald is. What about Grimace? What about Mayor McCheese? And so on and so forth. And I was like, this unadulterated bullshit is a great pleasure for me. And like, I've watched a lot of episodes of 30 Rock. Yeah. And I'm like, remember a time before we even understood that it probably wasn't a good idea for Alec Baldwin to wear brown face for this episode?
Oh, the aughts were such a different time. I mean, the flip side of it is, you know, if you spend, and this was, I mean, honestly, the kind of the real reason why I try to make a point of not talking too much about current events is people tend to listen to things like podcasts, obviously, at their own pace, right? I mean, and if you're lucky, it's kind of evergreen content. And that's, I think that's the crazy thing, even more so than Trump. And even like, not to get like too dark about it, but even more so than 9/11, like this is the kind of topic that is just every single piece of content that's created between now and when we're able to actually show our faces outside, it's going to absolutely permeate every single aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And do you feel like this is, I mean, obviously there's a different kind of lead time on moth stories, right? These are like somebody sharpening up a story off in cases of, something they did decades ago.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at least in my case, I always wait at least 5 years before I can talk about anything or make sense of it narratively. But I also feel like I agree with Jesse. Like right now, my appetite is just so driven to I don't know, just consume things. I can't process what's going on with my 78-year-old parents. I to the fear that I have about, are they going to be okay? They went through the wildfires 2 years ago and we lost everything, and them getting set back up and then this hitting again, like it's all so much to think about, and everything that everybody's going through is so much to think about, that my appetite is not for the earnest right now. It's exactly what Jesse was talking about. I mean, to be listening to Best Show Bests, to be going back on old JJ Go stuff, that's the stuff honestly that is honestly getting me to just be able to sleep at night, to have some joy and have some fun, and then go do something, actually, like get a little exercise and then sleep well, is
That plus Fleabag.
well, Fleabag just keeps it real.
Dan, who's the best John Worcester character?
Oh God, there are so many. I mean, I'm still such a sucker for Philly Boy Roy.
Yeah,
that's like kind of like basic, but Philly Boy Roy is huge. The Rock Rodder Rule guy is so great. And I don't know, I can't keep track of everybody from East Newbridge and Newbridge Flats and Lake Newbridge, but I just go through Best Show Bests and look for anything that has Newbridge and download it.
You strike me as a Matthew Tompkins of Shout Network kind of guy. I feel like you could have been him in another life.
I'm
just
this
listing
is like,
off all their programs.
This is like, I don't know who that is, but
okay, I'll send you a link after this.
Okay,
I'm all about
that was me like doing the ultimate CNN lag.
Yeah.
Where I was like,
just going through all the emotions at once. So Jesse, you said you're a Joe Biden guy. Is that right?
I'm all about the Gorch. The Gorch is my favorite Worcester character.
He really is. He really is Biden-esque, isn't he?
Yes.
He literally told a story about chain fighting.
The Gorge, for anybody who's never listened to the Best Show or Sharpling and Worcester, the Gorge is a character who claims to be the inspiration for the Fonz. He's a guy from Pennsylvania who had a regional hit song in the doo-wop era called Chain Fight Tonight. And all his stories are about how he's 68 years cool and still doing it. and they're all about chain fights, having chain fights with other local gangs in Pennsylvania. Oh, it's great. It's so great. Oh, the Fonz is based on the Gorge.
That was one of my recommendations, to just talk about like deep and rich back catalog that people could really dive into at this point.
Well, I've heard from a lot of people, like we have this show called The Adventure Zone that the McElroy brothers do. And like something like that, where it's like immersive, it's fictional, it's like a gentle caretaking funny thing. People just let's do this. Because it has to be, like, for me, it has to be a little more than, I find Great British Baking Show very pleasant, but it's not engaging enough it's not, there's not enough for me to be distracted from my night terrors. Um, I need either a rich world, thinking about maybe watching Larry Sanders over again,
Mm.
or possibly I could do with the other night I watched that 30 Rock where Liz Lemon is going to do that thing where she sets a time, and if we still in love with each other in 2 years, we meet at this place, and um, and Tracy Jordan says, yeah, that's in a lot of romantic comedies, like You've Got Mail and An Affair to Remember, and the remake of An Affair to Remember that I was in, A Blaffair to Remember. And like, I've one Blaffair to Remember is enough to sustain me for like 30 hours.
Yeah.
Like I'll just be walking around, like walking my dog, marching up the hill, thinking Blaffair to Remember, Blaffair to Remember. You know, it's boys becoming men, men becoming wolves.
I think Jack in the writer's room is that for me.
Oh yeah.
I recently rediscovered the Trailer Park Boys, which is like is perfect. It's what I need right now, because it's just, there's just so much of it, and it's just kind of white noise.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the same. It's the same. Well, you're Canadian, Ophira.
I know it very well. I know it very well.
Yeah, it's the same hijinks over and over again, and that's perfect for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the least focused great comedy shows ever.
What are you enjoying these days, Ophira?
No, I was saying that we didn't watch actually the last season. We just started the last season of The Good Place last night, which I know everyone else is so far beyond it. But that is very, very great to watch. And then, I have a pretty insatiable appetite for these terrible, just the kind of detective novels that you could buy in a convenience store if you could go to a convenience store. So I just download them on my iPad now and read them on. And I love them, and they're not very good.
Ophira, do you read cozies? Is that your genre, or do you read like a hard-boiled? What kind of detective novel are we looking? Are we looking at like an Agatha Christie or like a Lawrence Block?
I like a Lawrence Block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like a Lawrence. Agatha Christie. I mean, it's okay, but I prefer Lawrence Block is perfect.
I seen a lot of billboards for the new Spencer for Hire movie starring Mark Wahlberg that's on Netflix, and every time I see one, I think, yeah, I should probably watch that.
That's good.
I should probably
seems
watch
okay.
that Spencer
seems
for
okay.
Hire movie. That seems, yeah. I'll probably sort of the way that if I was 12 years older than I am, I'd be like, yeah, I'm really getting into Bosch. I see
Bosch
that and I think, this could be my Bosch.
Right? Totally.
There's so many shows on these streaming networks that are just kind of up there at the top of the page.
Oh my goodness.
That like I've been putting off. Maybe this is the time that I finally watch Ozarks.
Oh yeah.
Ozark. That's up there.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Jason Bateman writing and starring in a dramatic television series. We all wanted that.
What? It's like Breaking Bad, but better?
It's supposed to be good. Ozarks is supposed to be good. I don't have any problem with it.
Let me ask Jesse and Ophira sort of, one last fairly serious question before we wrap up here. I'm really curious, as somebody who is both single and lives alone with a rabbit, what the kids' impressions of this are, how they're sort of processing this, and how unusual does it feel to them?
Well, you have older kids, so they probably are actually processing it.
They are processing it in the same way that they process like it's like going through potty training, or like when the naps stop at preschool, or when school starts up again after the summer. It's not so much, it's not dread. None of them are worried about it so far, thank God. It's more like things are really different, and they're fine with that intellectually, but you can tell that it has really thrown them in terms of their like understanding of the consistency of the world, and so they're a little crazy all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, yeah, my son is probably acting out more. Generally he's good, but I've just, we're just sort of like, he knows the word. I mean, he was the one that woke up one morning and just turned to me and said, apparently coronavirus comes from bats. So I was like, all right, well, you know more than a lot of people right now. But so he's aware of that things are really not happening right now in a routine way. But I mean, I feel like he doesn't really get it. And I keep saying to myself and my husband, like, all we're trying to do is reassure him that he's safe and that we're giving him a comfortable, fun situation to live in within what we can. And that's it. So I have told him a few times, I was like, we're safe, you're going to be safe. I've just actually said those words.
So you don't feel like you're in a position where you need to necessarily block the information that that you want to kind of keep some of this news from him now?
Not yet. Yeah, not yet.
Great. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for doing this. I guess this is the part where we plug stuff for the 16 people who are left in the YouTube live. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Do you want to go round robin?
Get aggressive about plugging projects.
What of your projects should people listen to escape from the bleak realities that we're all living in, Jesse?
Well, if you go to my Twitter at Jesse Thorn, you can check out my two really cool new shows, Ice Cream Live and Soup Show. One is where I made split pea soup.
Soup Show.
That's soup.
Favorite soup.
That's Soup Show. And then one is where I made elderberry ice cream with the elderberry syrup that I bought recently at the Camp Nelson Women's Club annual fundraiser. The ladies of Camp Nelson, California, roam the mountains of the Southern Sierra gathering elderberries and then making them into syrup that they put into those jars that those glass jars that club sodas come in, like the little,
like a mason jar.
Dan's like, no, the kind that Dan's had many times at AA meetings. It is the most classic AA beverage there is a club soda in one of those little jars. One of those little.
They give you a chip if you drink enough of them.
I thought you were
styrofoamy label.
I thought you were commenting on my identifying by just constantly nodding and sort of looking around the room.
So check out Soup Show and Ice Cream Live, where I made some ice cream and made some soup. Or you can just, MaximumFun.org is my website of podcasts that are continuing to make shows. We're doing our best.
Yeah.
Ophira, do you have any Corona-related projects that you would like to plug?
Well, like I said, you asked me another. We're gonna make more, so that's gonna be happening. And then I'm sure in the next week, once I settle into whatever is going on, I'll make something. But right now I have lots of old media, as in books, CDs, stories, that if you've never heard them, they will be new to you.
Yeah, Ophira is also a fantastic stand-up too. I highly recommend you check us out.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
I was supposed to record a new album in a week, so that's on hold.
Yeah. Also, the book about all the dudes you fucked.
Yeah, see, that's escapism, and it's all about touching. It's real stuff now.
I also want to plug my dog Sissy.
Oh.
She is a sweetie who loves me very
Aw.
much. She's also as dumb as a fucking rock. Not even a
Yay,
bag
the
of rocks.
best,
A
the
single
best,
rock in a
The
bag.
best.
That's my buddy sister, little sister. We're beard siblings.
Dan, you've got a couple of books out there that people can read during this off season, right?
Read the first 2 books. They're the funny ones that'll make you laugh, and they're nothing but just joy and goofiness. The first one is Loser Goes First, and the second one is Rock On. The third one is emo, so stay away from it right now. Don't read it. You don't need that shit right now.
You want
Or-
to get yourself rock on and read that story about the time Dan met Fat Joe.
Fat Joe.
Oh my God, it's
Or
so amazing.
just go to McSweeney's and read. I have 200 and something pieces on there that are nothing but fun and goofing around. So read those because they're free and you don't have to buy anything. Please continue to enjoy my crafting, my plaques.
It's amazing.
These are available on Instagram.
People buy
you
that
can-
Freddie Mercury?
No one's gonna buy this. I made this, Brian. I made this. I'll give it to someone like John Harden or whoever, or Dave in Seattle. Someone.
I thought you had an Etsy page that you were plugging.
No, not everything's about money, man. I'm not trying to monetize my plaques.
I feel like that would be perfect to do coke off of.
Wow. Brian, I'm
Not
going to
what
ask
this
you to
is
get rid
about,
of those.
Brian.
Get rid of those whiskey
It's
bottles.
probably time for us to call it. This is on the, for now, hopefully we'll do another one of these soon, but on the RIYL YouTube channel, so you can check out more episodes there. I have not mentioned this in public before, but my friend Timmy Williams and I are in fact working on a ska podcast that we have recorded an
Nice.
episode of. So hopefully that will be for you to be able to enjoy during this
Wait.
quarantine.
Brian, I have
Yeah.
I have a Timmy Williams related plug.
Okay.
I just want people to go to YouTube and type in Timmy hot dog
Mhm.
and watch Timmy's hot dog sketch from the sketch comedy group and television program that he was in/on The Whitest Kids You Know, because the hot dog sketch with Timmy, which is basically just him describing to a doctor different hot dogs he eats every day, is one of my favorite comedy sketches of all time. Top 10 all time.
Absolutely.
All right.
Whitest Kids, if you haven't yet, good escapist stuff to dive into right now.
Lot of fun stuff, but just that hot dog one. Just let's zero in on that hot dog one.
I think you should leave too. Remember that. That's
Yeah.
like nothing
Oh,
but
yeah.
pure joy. And
Yep.
crazy insanity.
Remember when he's singing about the baby's chubs?
There's so much brilliance.
Sure. What a crazy motorcycle. It's all everything is.
I'll do it. I'll eat the receipt to solve the problem.
Has this ever happened
Okay,
to you?
I have to go take care of my family. Good night, everybody. I love you.
I'm going to walk home. See you guys later.
Okay, bye guys.